PMP exam studying. How do you ace the PMP exam? An exam that is so multifaceted. It's full of all sorts of content. Today, I'm going to be walking you through how to effectively study and pass the exam. The PMP exam is a heavy exam, and what I mean by heavy exam, it is laden with content. You've got to be good in Agile, predictive, hybrid, people, process, and business domains. Without a doubt, there's a lot to read. You have the option of reading textbooks, the PMBOK guide, PMI standards, process groups, a practice guide, and many more. Today, I'm going to boil it down for you because I don't want you running all over the place. I want you to be able to narrow down, focus on what you need to. There are 3 domains on this exam, and they are people, process, and business. And this is how I need you to plan your studying. But as you study, I want you to remember that Agile is big on the exam. So when you're studying people, think Agile and predictive. When you're studying process, think Agile and predictive. When you're studying business, think Agile and predictive. And then you'll be able to wrap everything up in a pretty bow and be hybrid. For you to do well on this exam in the Agile area, you need to have Agile down pat. And there are 5 components I advise for the Agile thinking on this exam. The Agile Manifesto should be read. You can get that at agilemanifesto.org. The Scrum Guide should be read. You can get this at scrumguides.org. Kanban basics should be understood, and you can get the understanding of Kanban basics by reading the Agile Practice Guide or by reading Agile Principle Raw and Uncut, a book by my buddy Roy and I. In order to do well on this exam, you should have a plan. You should have a plan as far as how you're going to cover people, process, and business. I have a free PMP exam immersion study plan. You can find that at the links below. Follow the plan, and you will find the exam more bearable, easier to study, easier to master. Here are the components for the exam. Week number 1, I recommend honing in to the people domain. You can read this in the PMP exam immersion book to go hyper deep into the people domain. You can also take quizzes at pmpdoctor.com. Or if you have a system already that works for you, that breaks the exam down into people, process, and business, and all the 14 tasks in the people domain, then you're going to be good for week 1. Just make sure that you are testing yourself against each task. There are 14 tasks for people. Make sure you've got that down pat. Week number 2. Again, you want to hone in on the process domain. This is where the process of studying with friends and like minds comes in. This is what a lot of our students do. They study together, they get further ahead together, and they're organizing themselves into subgroups so that outside of my main study group, they can keep studying. That is exactly what I recommend for you. Now, for the process domain, it is extremely important you don't just think about predictive project management, the 49 processes, the process groups, the knowledge areas. That's important. But on top of that, this is where you need to put on your Agile study hat. This is where you need to be studying a whole lot of Agile. You need to understand the mechanisms and the intricacies of Scrum and Kanban and terms such as velocity, planning poker, affinity estimating, and the whole 9 yards. There's roughly 100 definitions for this component of Agile. And then for the predictive component of process, there are over, get this, 500 definitions. So I put these definitions in the various books that we publish, but you do need to know your 500 plus predictive definitions and your 100 plus Agile definitions. On week 3, we go into the business domain. This is very well covered in the book, PMP Exam Immersion, because in order to understand the business domain, you need to be strategic in thinking. The PMI talk about strategy as being one of the principles. You got to think strategically. You got to see the big picture. And this will be tested on the exam. You got to understand benefits and value. You got to understand benefits management plans, benefits registers, and the whole idea of seeking to deliver value incrementally. The whole idea of going into your backlog and looking into the geopolitical landscape and understanding how the marketplace conditions affect your unique project. Week 4, mock exam. We have 3 mock exams on our learning system at pmpdoctor.com. And on week 4, we want you to hit one of those. And on subsequent weeks, you can hit the other 2. But one thing's for sure, if you follow the process, you will close the gaps. If you follow the process daily, putting in the minimum that I recommend is 2 hours. But the maximum, put in as many hours as you can. Some people study 8 hours a day, and that's okay. But when you put in the time and the effort and you are focused on closing gaps, realize in the mock exams and in the quizzes and in the quizzes in the book, you will come out a more well-rounded project management professional. So let's go over a few top of the waves items that I need you to hone in on as you study for this exam. For the people domain, I really need you to hone in on the understanding of leadership. You need to understand the vanilla flavor definition of leadership. It's all about influence. When you think about leadership, don't think about authority. There is a difference between leadership by authority and leadership by likability. As a project manager, you really have more longing and wanting to lead by likability, by being on the same page. So you need to approach the content with that mindedness of what exactly leadership is. John Maxwell said the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So think influence, right? So in order for you to do well on the people domain, you need to understand the 5 ways you can resolve conflict, you can avoid or withdraw, compromise or reconcile, force or direct, collaborate, problem solve, all that stuff. And then to lead a team, you need to understand the different leadership styles. You need to understand the mindedness in the Hersey-Blanchard model. You need to understand the concept of giving power away, of delegating, which is the lower left quadrant of the Hersey-Blanchard model. You need to understand how to demonstrate team task accountability and how to bestow levels of decision-making authority. You need to understand the 5 stages of team development. This is very important, whether you're in the world of Agile or predictive. Forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning, and understand why adjourning is not favored in Agile, because if we begin swapping team members out and scrambling teams around, then where does our velocity that we've built up and the understanding that we've built up with the team come in? That goes out of the window, and you keep doing that team after team after team? No. So in the world of Agile, we prefer not to do that. You got to understand the concept of impediments, obstacles, and blockers, and why you should go after them quite vehemently, because those impediments, obstacles, and blockers could derail your project and bad things could happen. You also need to understand that we call these issues in the world of predictive. When it comes to negotiating, you need to put on your thinking hat. I'm negotiating more than money. I'm negotiating scope. I'm negotiating schedule. I'm negotiating quality and other parameters. I'm negotiating resources. And then you need to have the collaboration mindset. You need to think about individuals and interactions over processes and tools. You need to think customer collaboration over contract negotiation. You need to understand terms like T-shaped skills, ground rules, broken comb, team charter, social contract, and the like. When it comes to mentoring, this is something you should do. As a project manager who is getting ready to be a PMP, think mentoring as being part of your responsibilities. Think coaching where necessary as part of your responsibility. You got to get the coaching for the team. And think about EI, emotional intelligence, understanding your emotions and being able to bridle them and being able to influence the emotions of others. When it comes to the process domain, you got to understand why you execute the project with urgency. You want to deliver business value, but you want to do it incrementally. You also want to get feedback as you proceed. This helps you build a better product. When it comes to all of those tasks like manage communications and manage risks, you got to understand this is not just saying the management aspect alone. No, this is an umbrella term to refer to everything you do in that world. Let me give you a very quick example. Task 2 in process is manage communications. So think about it. Managed communications in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition is one process, but that's not all we're talking about. We're not just talking about the art of communicating. No, instead, we're talking about planning communications management, managing the communications, and monitoring the communications in an agile world and in a hybrid as well as predictive world. So you need to understand the aspect of transparency and information radiators and all of the meetings, all of the events in Scrum. You got to see those as vehicles for communicating. So when you come into a task, don't just think about the task from a predictive lens. You must think about it from an agile lens as well, and a hybrid lens. And that's why in the book PMP Exam Immersion, we have the agile aspects talked about separately. We have the predictive aspects talked about as well, and a general hybrid mindedness. So you got to be able to understand not only the world of agile, but the world of predictive and hybrid. And the more you study in this way, taking quizzes and mock exams from reliable sources that hone in on the PMP exam content outline, the better your chances of success. So you need to understand the processes of communications, the processes of risks, the processes of stakeholder management, the processes involved in cost and resources and schedule, understanding quality, understanding scope, and the concept of integrating all your project plans. Managing project changes is a task unto itself. Procurement is an area you also need to understand how that works. Managing artifacts. What are artifacts? Well, they're documents, and version control comes with certain documents. And this is where we begin talking about configuration management. We have artifacts, plans, documents, and those need to be effectively managed. So you need to understand that concept in predictive, but also in Agile, you need to understand that you got 3 artifacts in Scrum, for example, and many other artifacts that are unspoken, like your information radiators, your backlogs, whatever you may call them. Also, determining which project methodology to use and why is important. So you do need to understand the Stacy model, the definition of governance, the importance of tracking your issues in an issue log and what that could look like, knowledge transfer, tacit knowledge, explicit knowledge, those definitions need to be understood, and what you do when closing a project. These are all items that you as a project manager, you got to have these down pat. The final aspect is a business environment, so you need to understand the importance of compliance, how to evaluate benefits and value. This is where the benefits register, the benefits management plan, the benefits owner, the whole topic of benefits realization comes in. Task 3 in business is all about the business environment. So you got to be looking at the external business environment changes. You got to be looking at the regulatory, the technology, the geopolitical, the marketplace conditions. Those are always changing and they could impact your project, and you need to pivot accordingly. And lastly, you got to support organizational change. So my friends, as you can see from this, there is a lot for you to do on this exam. Many topics, many moving parts, but I know as you study in an intentional, deliberate fashion, using the study plan that I have presented here, you will get closer and closer until you reach your ultimate success and you will become a PMP. I hope you found value from this. Smash the like button. Make sure you bookmark it. Come back every now and again and listen, and make sure you go through that checklist that I read off. Make sure that you've got all those things down pat. Thank you very much, my friends. Best wishes on your PMP exam. If you're looking for training and coaching and help, remember we have the book PMP Exam Immersion on Amazon. We have Agile Principle Run and Cut on Amazon as well. And we also have the tinyurl.com/elite PMP course. So go on down to tinyurl.com/elite PMP, and you can be part of my elite PMP program on Udemy. Also remember, pmpdoctor.com is a separate repository where we tactically address all of the 35 tasks in the PMP exam content outline. There's very few systems like this that surgically address each task, looking for gaps and looking for where you can improve. Thank you, my friends. All the best, and bye for now.